Okay, roses are red, violets are blue. Sunday Assembly Manchester has started. It's nice to see you. It's a very cheesy rhyme, the roses are red one, but it is a brilliant one. So throughout the assembly, from you, I'm going to be sharing some of your roses and reds ones, and you've done a fantastic one already. In fact, you've done loads of brilliant ones already. I think I'm going to share one from Tony that I liked very much. I just need to find it now because my chat box keeps moving. Here we go. Roses are red, violets are blue. If you were a sequel, you would be Toy Story 2. That is the where we are with our assembly today. So this is Sunday Assembly Manchester. We are a secular community that celebrates life and today celebrates love because it is Valentine's Day. We like to help off and wonder more and live better. Yes, that's the other one. And there are lots of assemblies all over the world, some of which are happening today because it's a Sunday. But we here at Sunday Assembly Manchester have been going every single week in lockdown, which I think is amazing. So we are delighted to spend our Valentine's Day with you. Is it not one of the most commercial events of all time, Valentine's Day? It's got to be up there, hasn't it? It's the pressure. And I maybe I'm a bit of a cynic, but I'm sure there are plenty of in love people somewhere enjoying Valentine's Day. But I think for the majority, it's a bit of a pressure because either you're on your own or you're with a relationship that you're desperately trying to be happy about on this one day. So we can have love any day. But I think what is important today is maybe self-love. That is the one thing that you can do. So today, I hope you're going to be your own Valentine. You don't need another one. If you've got loads of Valentines or your own Valentine, that's fine. But I think you should be your own Valentine today and be as lovely and compassionate to yourself as possible. Run yourself a nice bath. Have a nice piece of cake. That's the love we're going to share today. So we have got a very special speaker today who's going to talk about not only love, but record-breaking love. Before I introduce him, I have got a very special lady to introduce you to. We always have a poet, and our poet today, who I'm going to show, is here. Bridie Breen is our poet for today.
Hey, everybody.
Here she is with the most gorgeous flowers behind you. Now, did you buy them yourself, or did you have a friend?
I'm afraid my Valentine bought them for me.
Don't rub it in now, Bridie. Here we go. I'm still waiting for mine.
Oh, well.
That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, your poet for today is Bridie Breen.
Thanks very much and welcome. I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Tony and Louise and everybody. I had a tough time with this one because my children laughed when I told them it was a topic and the theme was love for Valentine's Day. So they know me to write about the other side of human behavior, like oppression and racism and injustices and all that. So I've written these, they're all newly scribed, and some have titles, some haven't. So I'll read them all through and I hope you enjoy them and just see what love does to a bridey brain when she's put under pressure not to write about all of the other stuff. Okay. Somehow love is a subject does strange things to my mind and pen. Somehow it gives birth to rhyme. It's like I become a child again. My heart's uplifted, I smile from within. Words spill out in a tumble, all lyrical. And it's only when I stop to consider why such musical tones fill me with joy. Always there inside a deep feeling that love brings. It makes the inner me actually sing. Being well loved seems like a cliched term, yet it's all encompassing, especially as we grow older. There's always more to learn. Don't knock young love though. Looking back is like a testing place to get to the best. All types of love, passionate or serene, draws us nearer to achieving our life's dream. Smooch love. Our lips meet. I feel myself falling into you. That deep knowing reaches into my being and vanishes all doubt, comforts in a touch. Eyes show it more than words spoken. Not everything needs the rise and fall of voice to be understood. We stand close together and all else fades away. And this is for the simple things of love we take for granted, like tucking our kids into bed at night and them having a warm, safe place to sleep. Snug as a bug. Let me tuck you in, keep you snug as a bug. Words that soothe and comfort a small child of mine. not an occasional occurrence, a routine sure as rise and fall of each young breath, a habit to draw a day to gentle end before light dims and door closes, always slip in a prayer for those without a home. Explain the unease to little ears. Not everyone has it easy. Life inked dipped for some, a black page blotted but real. Little security or love in life, minus a touch of kindness, a feel of care, and in between the darkness and light, hours saturated in lonely despair. Twists and turns of life, a challenge that overcomes many, thinking briefly of each and the story behind the tired, drawn face, the body that looks drug addicted, the girl lost, just trying to survive, thinking they all must have a father and mother, yet nowhere to belong, thinking in all this 21st century progress, we still get so much of the simple stuff wrong. Thinking, if it was my child, how would I feel? Scanning each sleeping bag, each crumpled form, sheltering in a doorway, sleeping in the bitter cold. And I'd like to send love out to John Scott Wrench's family, the lad who was found at Marks and Sparks in the cold, and just to send a bit of love out to his siblings. If only love. If only love could be boxed airtight and kept for emergencies, it could be used to dismantle any global crisis to bring calm. If it could be put in a tube as ointment for irksome conditions, regular applications would be such a soothing balm. If it could be shaped into pastry by a marble rolling pin, it could make endless sweet bites to tempt appetite and make us feel better, whatever state we're in. If it could be stored in a freezer compartment in the ice cube tray, it could infuse cocktails after a hard working day. If it could be bottled, fused with laughter, shipped across the sea, it could hydrate and nourish each nation as far as the eye could see. If it could be decided upon purely by touch, it would quicken pulse rate and feelings that rush through from toes to head and let us know that love is about sharing multifaceted layers, some laughter, some pain, some tears, but mostly it's a blanket of comfortable care that warms our soul, makes us feel wanted, valued, and whole. And love is real. Love is an endless stream of consciousness and choice. It blows and grows through winds of change, just as snowflakes drop separately and create a blanket on the ground. Love forms a seal, steeped in promise, a thread that binds, invisible but real. Real as creatures that feed in the spring garden, real as a blackbird's song, real as the trees swayed by air, real as infant fingers that entwine yours and mine, real as laughter boom or tear drip when emotions churn. Love is the greatest gift to bestow, immeasurable. We learn about the giving in living and the giving into love, that sweet surrender. As time shifts on, love can be cast adrift, stay shallow, or become the deepest sea. Love costs nothing, but matters the most to me. And this goes out to frontline workers, carers, families, all of us really, a bit of love from all of us to all of us. Love NHS style. Love is all that ever matters, especially now as our world is in pandemic tatters. It's too late for those now gone to celebrate, but just know that each face seen on a TV screen tell a story of a person and family. It hits home. It could be you or me. This Valentine's Day, our hearts stretch to embrace all, each hand held, each forehead soothed, each word of care raised louder to be heard behind a mask when tasks of sustaining life become mechanical. Love speaks in a touch, compassion such a binding force that goes beyond our fears. We send love to all those waiting, waiting in that void of induced sleep so as to heal. We send love to all those waiting, waiting at home, helpless and afraid. We send love to all those in blue and white, those plasticked and exhausted. On this Valentine, we send our hearts filled with hope, especially there. Just so they know and feel that swathes of this nation do really care. And lastly, Tony, this is one for you because love has been a hard topic and I've gone into brain rhyme for some reason. So this one is a tongue-in-cheek one. It's called Good Enough Tweets. And for all of us, Today is a day to make a meal out of me. Let's go all out romantic like we like to be. We can sizzle like steak, peppered or stir fried, or go from rare to well done feeling in a flash like a steaming pan of potato hash. Just give me that look and I'll feel all spiced. It doesn't take much to be enticed. Our culinary skills are not the same. Yours is sex appeal by its other name. You know how desserts like homemade cheesecake or Black Forest gateau is all it takes to honestly make me salivate. And even though we don't share the same sweet tooth, we blend a beautiful love, and that's the truth. So let's all eat, drink, stay thankful in mind, and have secret recipes for our Valentines. Thank you very much.
Bridie Breen, thank you so much. What a lot of love in the room. Thank you so much, and so much love. Why do we have this one day for love? I guess because this is a romantic love, but love is so wonderful. Love is appreciation of the people that care for us, that have done so much for us, for the people that we love, or the people that we've lost. And you've covered all of that. Thank you very much, Bridie. That was lovely. How can people find more poetry from you if they would like to?
Just friend me on Facebook, and I've got some on SoundCloud and a little bit on a website I'll put in. I don't maintain it. I just write all the time, but I don't do any of the techno stuff. So I'm open to offers of intelligence, please.
Yeah. Offers of intelligence, welcome.
Yes,
thank you very much. Thanks very much, Bridie. Amazing. So yes, we definitely covered lots of different versions of love, and you have been writing your love poetry, and I have another beautiful one for you. Roses are red, violets are blue, give me cake and I'll always love you.
Lovely.
Congratulations for that. So keep your poems coming in, and you never know, I might share one with you. I'll share yours with everyone else. So thank you very much for that. Love, hey? Ah, yes. Love is an amazing emotion, but when it comes to Valentine's Day, it can be, I mean, our hearts don't even look like that. What is that? That is not what a heart is, sort of like a round pulsing thing. Yet for some reason, this shape has become a heart. And I remember at Valentine's Day, it used to be so embarrassing because I used to always get a Valentine's Day card. And just for a moment, I thought maybe that was from someone who was a secret Valentine who loved me, fancied me from afar maybe. And every time I opened it, even though that Valentine's Day card said from ? I recognised my mum's handwriting. Maybe I should have been grateful to have a mum that would send me a Valentine's Day card, but I found it embarrassing that it wasn't a boyfriend instead. So that was my experience of Valentine's Day. Our speaker for today is going to talk about world records, about love. So we're going to put world records and love. We're going to bring them together like that. And I was part of a world record attempt here in Tameside where we decided to make the most amounts of cups of tea in an hour. Now, someone held the world record, I think, of about 1400 cups, and we thought we could beat that easily. We will make tea. But actually, I ended up being an adjudicator, and it was a lot more complicated than you would think. All the cups had to have the equal amount of tea in. There were 3 different types of tea brewed at the exact right temperature that they needed to be brewed, and everything had to be perfect. I think we got about 1,000 in the end. We did really well, and we sold the cups of tea for charity, and it was fantastic, but we did not break the record, sadly, and there was just people desperately trying to brew cups of tea in the middle of Ashton Town Centre. And then we found out who actually held the record after we'd finished, and it was a tea urn company. Maybe we didn't have any chance of winning the record, but I'd like to think that we could have our own record today. I don't quite know what it is, but the reason I'm talking about records is I'd like to introduce you to our speaker for today, who is probably not at all impressed by my tea attempts. And it wasn't just me that did this. It wasn't my idea, I might add. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Craig, our speaker for today, and Craig Glenday. I love your fish tank, by the way, and your beautiful red tie. I'm glad you've made the effort as I have with my red. So I'm going to get this right. You're the editor-in-chief of Guinness World Records book.
That's it, yes. So we used to be known as the Guinness Book of Records. That's what we were famously for about 50 years, I think, roughly. We were owned by Guinness, the beer company. And then they sold everything that wasn't alcohol related in about 99, 2000. So we had to rename ourselves as Guinness World Records. But anyway,
So,
It's
ladies
fine,
and
you can say
gentlemen,
Guinness.
your speaker for today is Craig Glenday. Everyone go wild, please.
Good morning. Thank you all. And thank you all for having me, Louise, Tony, Bridie. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. Really inspiring way to start the day. Also, one of my favourite foods in Scotland is the bridie, which is the meat, like a meat patty, and delicious. Anyway, yeah, so I'm the editor-in-chief at Guinness World Records. So it's my job to make the book, the famous, you can see some here, I think that's just about above me, I can't do these things very well. And I've been there now nearly just over 18 years, yeah, and worked on the last 16 books as the editor. So my job is to go around the world and to measure people, measure giants, and weigh the heaviest people. I mean, I've done all the big classics, the longest fingernails, the tallest man, the tallest woman, all these amazing human beings that just paint an amazing picture of what the world is, how diverse the world is. And it's a real honor for me and a privilege to get to do this every day as a job. I should also say that in my spare time, which I haven't got much of, I also look after the Stephen Sondheim Society as the chair. And that's how I know Judith, and that's why I'm here today, because I'm a friend of Judith's. So thank you, Judith, as well, for recommending me. I'm going to try and keep this short enough. Ken's a lot to get through, and I can talk for hours. So I'm going to try and rein myself in. I just have to say that I'm very lucky in my job, because I get to see, I think, the reality of the world, not the news version of the world. If you watch the news every day, especially at the minute, it's so grim. I mean, I've stopped watching the news, really, because it's just too depressing. You get the odd highlight, the amazing Sir Captain Tom, or Captain Sir Tom, Joe Wicks, and all these people who have done amazing things, but there's not enough of that in the news. And what I see in my job is the daily turnover of news stories is that they're mostly positive, the great, fun, life-affirming things that never get covered on the news. So I feel very privileged to be able to, I think, see a more realistic take on what the world is. We get about 1,000 applications a week, roughly. At the minute, it's down a bit because of COVID, but at the minute we're on about 100 a day. So 100 people around the world are applying for records. And so what I thought I would do is troll through the more romantic side of record breaking to give you a bit of a top 10. I'm going to see if I can share my screen, because you're getting a treat. You're getting a Sunday morning deck in PowerPoint. Lucky you. Now let's just see if this works. Now, can you see that?
Not yet.
Okay. How do we do this? Application window. There we go. So yeah, you can see this.
Yay!
Yeah. Okay. So this is not me. This is the world's tallest man, Robert Wadlow, who's on my slide template. And I put myself into scale. So that's how Robert Wadlow's 8'11.1, and I'm 5'7". So I come up to his pocket on his jacket. Anyway, this is me. I'm going to present to you the most, I think, romantic records, top 10, depending on your definition of romantic, I suppose. And as it's a top 10, and to make me get a move on, I think I should do this. It's one for the old people. So at number 10, here we go. Let's kill that. So I think what's more romantic than a bouquet of flowers? Well, at the minute, the record stands at an amazing 156,940 roses. It was done by a shopping mall. The last time it was done by an individual, it was 100,000 red roses. But this is the size of it. It's enormous. I mean, this thing is about 26 meters long and weighs 10.3 tons. It's meant to be covered in cellophane, but the record has now become so big that you can't get cellophane big enough to cover such an enormous bouquet of flowers. And if you wanted to have this delivered to your paramour, your secret love, then based on the current prices at Interflora, because I just checked this yesterday, if you wanted to order basically a 10-ton flower gift, it would cost you £719,000. So I really do hope that you love that person. It's also just a nightmare to get it to them logistically. Anyway, that's number 10, the largest bouquet. Another idea for a gift for Valentine's would be the largest box of chocolates. Well, again, this is Thornton's. Some of these are commercial records, so I think, as Louis said, it's quite hard to beat some of these big companies. I mean, Thornton's decided to claim the record themselves by creating a box of chocolates, which was basically 16 foot tall. It's enormous, again, and it contained just over a ton of chocolate, so 2,250 pounds of chocolate. Let me go back to that. It's basically, if you base it on a regular box of moments, it contains 8.6 million calories. So yeah, your Valentine would probably not thank you in the end for that. Longest kiss, what could be more Valentines than a kiss? Except the record we have now lasts it for 58.5 hours. So this is a couple in Thailand who in fact have held the record a couple of times. And it's a kissing competition which takes place in Thailand. And there are very specific rules. You have to lock lips. And in this competition, if you are the last couple standing, still your lips locked, you win 100,000 Thai baht, which is about £3,000. And you get a diamond ring each. So this is the couple who outlasted all the others back in 2013. They look exhausted, of course they do. They've been doing it for 2 or 3 days. And they're allowed to drink, but you can't unlock your lips even when you're drinking. This is how much of a challenge this record is. There we go, at the end, absolutely shattered, but you know, they've earned a diamond ring. I worked out as well that if you were basing your kiss on the average kiss calorie effort, so it's about 2 to 3 calories if you were kissing per second. So over that whole time, it's about 8,000 or 9,000 calories. So it's like walking 106 kilometers, so 66 miles. And I thought it'd be interesting to let you know at this stage that for every Guinness World Records title that we monitor, as Lise will tell you, we have very specific rules. So just in case you fancy taking it on today or starting it today, here are some of the rules. So it must be continuous. You must constantly touch your lips at all times. If the lips come apart, that's the game over. You have to be of age of consent in the country. You can drink liquids through a straw, but you're not allowed to part your lips because rule number 1 and 2 will mean you'll be disqualified if you separate. You must be awake, so you can't have one person asleep and one person kissing. Now, these are all based on things that we've witnessed, so we will have seen people fall asleep and kiss their partner whilst asleep. Not allowed. And to help them stay awake, you're not allowed to rest on anything. It's a bit harsh. So we say you have to be standing, no pillows or cushions, no rest break. So this is a marathon effort. If you have to go to the bathroom, you have to go together. You can't leave the venue. And finally, you're not allowed any adult nappies or incontinence pads. Again, a bit harsh, but these are the rules. If it was easy, we'd all have records. Right, number 7, a bit of a twist on the kiss is that we were asked to create a record called the habanero kiss. And with the habanero kiss, the idea is that you eat a habanero chili, very hot chili. You have to then show that your mouth is empty, and then you kiss for as long as you can, and also with your lips stinging. So this is a couple who did it on the TV show Bachelor in Paradise. They beat the record for kissing for 1 minute and 41 seconds. There they go. And it's horrible gif of them finishing, but nice big long stingy kiss. So the habanero is worth about 200,000 Scoville heat units. And a Scoville heat unit is what they use scientifically to determine the amount of capsaicin inside the chili. And the bigger the number, the hotter the chili. So this is 200,000 Scovilles. Out of interest, the hottest chili you can buy at the minute is about 1.8 million Scovilles, so 8 times hotter. So no one's yet, as far as I'm aware, tried a Carolina Reaper kiss, that's what it's called. So again, if you fancy having a go at the Carolina Reaper kiss, at the end, I've got the link you can follow to register your application with Guinness World Records, as we'd love to see you break this record. Another favourite kissing record I had to go in my list was the longest time to kiss a car. So it's a bit of a twist on, it's not quite Valentine's. But this is in Mexico and various places in the US as well. They have a competition to kiss a car. It's a bit like Touch the Truck, if you remember that TV show, Touch the Truck. And the idea is that you kiss the car and you stay with your lips on the car for as long as possible. And then the person who is standing at the end, still stuck to the car, wins the car. And in Mexico, there's a festival, the Feria de San Francisco, that's been going on since the 16th century. And the modern version of it now has a car kissing competition. This is actually from the US, this picture. I don't have a picture from Mexico, but you see these people on the car. Again, you're not allowed to sleep. And what in fact happened in this case, as you see there, there's two winners, Anesta Ambrosio and Jesus Vite. They got to 76 hours, and Chevrolet, who were providing the car, got so bored waiting for them to unlock their lips from the car that they said, "Can we just stop now, please?" They just take the car, and they got a car each. So Chevrolet gave up a car just for the sake of getting these people away. There's also a record for the most expensive kiss, by the way, which is held by George Clooney at the minute. So George Clooney sold a kiss for $350,000 back in 2007, I want to say, I think, yeah. But the money, thankfully, was given to an AIDS charity, which is a very nice idea. Right, number 5. So I've gone a bit off piste again. So this is a lovely record for the most tattooed senior citizens. Obviously, we monitor tattoo records. Who's got the most? The people who've got the entire body 100% covered in tattoos. But we opened up a category a couple of years ago for tattooed senior citizens. And this is Charlotte and Chuck. And Charlotte and Chuck are the most tattooed. Charlotte has 98.75%. Only the bit that's really clear is her face. And Chuck is just under the 97. And the nice thing is that Charlotte decided to get tattooed when her husband died. So her husband died, and she wanted some memento of him, but also a symbol of her rebirth, because she wanted to rebirth herself and become a new person. So wanted a butterfly tattooed on herself somewhere. She went to a tattoo parlor, and she was really nervous because it was her first time. She wasn't really sure what to expect. And at the tattoo parlor, waiting for one of his tattoos, was Chuck. And they got chatting, and he put her at ease. And eventually they decided to couple up. So they're now a couple. And between them have now spent over $100,000 on having themselves tattooed. And they see it as a form of bonding. And they say that the pain of the tattoo just reminds them of how strong their love is. Which I think is a lovely thing to do. And they've got this really shared hobby. And they're just the nicest couple. Slightly terrifying as they look. They are the most beautiful couple. And just out of interest, this is the most modified married couple. This is a couple in Brazil who have between them something like 87 different types of body modification. So he has a split tongue, she's got piercings, things implanted under her skin to raise the flesh. And again, they express their love by modifying their bodies in various ways. So again, whatever floats your boat, I think it's a lovely thing. Again, they're the nicest couple you can care to meet. And it's a real honor to get to meet these people and share in their day and spend a day in their life and find out what they're like. So if that's inspired you, then get yourself covered in tattoos and piercings and implants. Maybe not. On a similar vein, one of my favorite couples I've ever met was the shortest married couple, Paulo and Catuccia from Brazil. And they combined are 5'11", so just a bit taller than me. And this is them getting married in 2016. Just a lovely, lovely story. They met because they were really worried about never finding love. That was always a concern, I think, for really tall people and really short people. It's quite hard, especially if you're in a smaller community where you haven't got the contact. But these two met online, and he pursued her relentlessly. Paulo just would not stop hassling her. And eventually she was like, okay, fine, we'll have a date. They had a date and they fell in love and they got married eventually. So they're the loveliest couple. And it's just great that they've found their soulmate despite the challenges that they face in life. They've overcome so many obstacles. They're just the challenges of getting clothes, adult clothes. They're obviously having to wear children's clothes all the time, so they actually got stuff made. It's just a really sweet story. And just because you'll be wondering who the tallest married couple is, this is a Chinese couple who he is Sun Ming. You might recognize. He's a basketball player who's 7'9", so that's a regular doorway pretty much there. And his wife Zhu Yan, who is a volleyball player in China. And again, they met to discuss how the fun of being tall and ended up falling in love and got married in 2013. So a lovely couple. So between them, they're 13 foot 10.7. So yeah, nearly 14 foot. And then just this one also occurred to me when I was putting the slides together, that we also have a record for the height difference in a married couple. Many years ago, I played in a brass band, and we had a lady with dwarfism and a man who was a giant, had giantism. And together they made this amazing couple. They didn't have the record, but I did find this couple in France. Between them have a height difference of 95 centimeters, so 37 inches. It shows you, love is many and varied ways of expressing itself. I think it's a really positive story. This record is actually going to get beaten this year, I think, for the next edition of the book. I found a couple in Wales who have an even bigger height difference. So I look forward to revealing them to the world later this year. Number 3, I was inspired, of course, by Lady and the Tramp. We all remember this classic scene of the most couples eating the same piece of spaghetti. So we tried to recreate it as a record. It's not quite as romantic when you have people all squished into a restaurant, but we did eventually get 125 couples to slap on the same bit of spaghetti. You see they've got branded bibs as well to keep them clean. Sort of romantic, I guess. Yeah. Hugging, another Valentine's thing. I'm desperate for a hug from anyone. I haven't had a hug since last March. It's like, oh, I need a hug. Such an important thing in the world to get hugs and just to feel the touch of someone, friends, family, whatever. And so this really warmed my cockles. And also it's slightly shocking because you think, oh, we're so used to lockdown now and social distancing. It's just really nice to see people hanging out together. And this was in Bergamo in Italy. This is you can see this huge long stretch of people who lined the city's ancient walls. It had a UNESCO award given to it in 2016, and to mark the recognition of the walls of Bergamo being historically significant. They had 5,730 couples come together to hug. And it's a huge effort to get so many people together. This is why they've got coloured headbands, by the way, so you can count them in groups. So everyone had different headbands, so you could make it slightly easier for the judges. Because to count this, you need one steward for every 50 people. So you need an awful lot of stewards. It's a huge effort. And then just basic things like you need to have toilets and all the practicalities that come with having 11,000 people in the same space. So again, sort of romantic. And then this reminded me of someone you might know, Sanderson Jones. So I met Sanderson back in 2013 when he was attempting the longest hug record for the second time, actually. There we go. There's me, and there's Sanderson and Mikey at the Pleasance Theatre after their, well, just during their 25-hour hugathon. And there they are, just celebrating the win at the end. Still together, note, but not counting towards the total. A great record. Again, a real challenge, having to go to the bathroom whilst hugging someone. It's not an easy task. You may have to go on a low solid diet, if you know what I mean, before you attempt this record. And don't tell them, but the record's now 32 hours by a couple of guys in Oklahoma in 2015. 32 hours non-stop hugging. And then finally, my favorite record, which I've just discovered this week, has actually been rested. So resting at Guinness World Records means we no longer monitor it as a category, because this was a bit of a daft story, but it was a lovely idea, which is Sooty the guinea pig. Now, Sooty the guinea pig was kept at Little Friend's farm in Pontypridd in Wales. And they would, in this farm, they keep the male guinea pigs and the female guinea pigs separate. But one night, Sooty managed to get under the wiring of his cage and broke into the female cage and basically had a night, well, 2 days of passion with the females that were there. And after 2 days, they realized he was missing. And then they did a count in the female pen and found there were 25 guinea pigs and not 24. And so the extra guinea pig was Sooty. And then about 10 weeks later, suddenly 43 baby guinea pigs appeared, all fathered by Sooty. And the news, BBC News got involved and offered to promote the story to try and rehouse the guinea pigs to families who wanted a free guinea pig. And this brought Sooty to the attention of the whole world. He even got a TV show in Japan. And in Valentine's Day the following year, in 2001, he received 206 Valentines cards, which is the most ever sent to a guinea pig. So, you know, it's a bit of fun. You can see why we don't promote this record anymore, really. Sad to say. But yeah, he became very famous. He even got a free membership. I got a lifetime membership of Stringfellows in Soho, given his passion. Anyway, that was my top 10. I thought I'd stop there because I can carry on forever chatting. But this is my take on Valentines. This is it's a slightly twisted version of it. If you do want to try a record, it's free and available to everyone. Just go to guinnessworldrecords.com, and there we ask you to register and tell us in advance your idea for a record, and we'll send you the rules. So as Louise said, we'll send you the guidelines that you must follow for every record. And if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at Craig Glenday and at GWR for the official account. And I also do a weekly podcast called Record of the Day, which I'll stick the links into the chat when we're done. Right, how am I for time? Did I go well over?
Sorry, I'm shouting.
Yes, there we go. So that's, I mean, there's so many Valentine's records, and we've got so many more you could put in the list, like longest marriages and the oldest married couple, the most people kissing. There's a lady who makes it her job to catch bridal bouquets. She's called the Bouquet Slayer, and she's done more than 100 weddings to try and catch the bouquet. Anyway, we've got lots to think about. But yeah, happy to take any questions. And
if you have got a question for Craig, then please put it in the chat box, and we'll have.
I haven't been following the.
It's fine, don't worry. We'll find any questions that are in there. But if anything has sprung to mind, or maybe you're inspired and want to do your own record, you can maybe let us know which ones you're going to go for. I wanted to do one today, not that we could have been adjudicated, but I was going to try and make Lynn put on as many T-shirts as possible. But I think the world record has got someone's got about 1,000 of them on, so we won't make him do it. Brilliant. Okay, so I would like to know about just the sort of foundations of the book. What was the original records that people were holding?
Yeah, so the book started in 1954 is when it first began, and then was published in 55. And the idea started because Sir Hugh Beaver, who was the head of the Guinness Beer Company, was at a bird shoot in Ireland. He was buying hops, I think, from a supplier in Ireland, and was out there being wined and dined. And they were shooting at plover and grouse and stuff. And they had an argument on which is the fastest game bird. They couldn't agree on which was the fastest bird. And they went back to its Castlebridge house in Ireland, which is now derelict, sadly. But they had a very big library, a big expensive library, said Sir Hugh. And they couldn't find a book that would just solve that simple question, which is the fastest bird. So Sir Hugh realised that up and down the country and around the world, people would be arguing in pubs about all sorts of things. Who's the highest paid footballer? What's the tallest tower in the world? And if they had a book behind the bar, they could then have a pint of Guinness, get the book down, and then solve the argument. And the lovely line was to turn the heat of argument into the light of knowledge. This is a great idea. And the book was actually given free to pubs in the UK. There's 80,000 pubs in the UK in 1955, and half of them got a free book. And then many people kept stealing it, so the book would just vanish. People would, it was such a good idea. And so they thought, well, why don't we sell it in shops? And W. Smith hated the idea. They bought 6 copies of the first book, thinking that's all it would sell. And in the end, it was that year's Christmas bestseller. And we've been pretty much top of the best-selling books chart every year. This year, I think we were globally the 10th best-selling book in the world, which is really something that's really nice.
Hey.
And for me, it's really nice to think people are still reading books. You know, I love the fact that I get all these lovely letters from kids who are still reading, and really emotional letters from parents of kids who are reluctant readers. And the kids might not read any other book, especially boys are very bad at reading, I think. And they might not read any book, but they'll read the Guinness World Records book, and they don't even think of it as a book, which is a really nice position to be in. And they read it all year.
My son absolutely loves it and got it for Christmas. So we've had a message in from Lisa saying, of all the people in the world you've met, does anything shock or surprise you, Craig?
I mean, there's things that I can't ever talk about, especially not in public like this. Some stuff is like we get, as I say, we get about 1,000 applications a week, and some of it is outrageous. Like we've had to call the police a few times. An example, which is at least family friendly, is in a couple who were surgeons, husband and wife team, who had a child who was 15, and for his 15th birthday, the surgeons allowed the child to perform a cesarean birth, which is the most insane thing ever. Like, why would you give that as a gift to your child? He's probably a precocious child. He probably knew what he was doing, but that's not the point. So things like that, we have to say, like, you know, we have to tell someone about this. This is not good. Things like the fast, surgeons try to submit records for the fastest time to do a heart transplant. It's like, no, take your time, do it properly. Fastest time to build a block of flats. No, take your time. It'll come down in record speed. So there's lots of things that we don't accept. And there's a bit of a myth that we accept anything these days. But the fact is we reject about 93 to 95% of what we get because it's just either too boring, too weird, illegal, or just the things like dog with the fewest legs was one that we had. And this man had found a dog that had 3 legs and he wanted a record for it. Of course, the Queen has a corgi with 2 back legs missing. And also that gets to the point where you can't break the record because once you've got no legs, you can't have minus legs. So that's so we say no to a lot of things.
When someone comes to you with an idea, how do you make up or create the rules that would make it a legitimate, measurable attempt?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we would tend to do is depends on the record. If it's something where there's maybe a governing body involved, like sword swallowing, you know, the idea of swallowing a sword, which is a record that we monitor, we would go bizarrely to the International Sword Swallowing Association because there is a governing body for sword swallowing, and we ask them, what are your rules for attempting a swallow? And it's sword swallowing is it's not a trick, it is a real thing when you put the sword down. So we will go over their guidelines. If it's something new, like the habanero kiss, for example, we have standard framework for records, like it has to be within a set amount of time, or anything that involves eating, you have to show your mouth is empty at the end of the eating, after you've eaten something. If it involves food, it has to be something that's eaten. So I noticed a question about the chocolates. Every record that involves food has to be edible, and the food must be eaten or distributed. And what tends to happen is these big companies will give the food out to the homeless or to schools or whatnot. So none of it goes to waste, because if it goes to waste, they get disqualified, because we don't want to encourage food wastage, especially, there's so much giant food gets made at the minute that we have to make sure it's all eaten. So. Yeah,
someone was asking about the chocolates earlier. What happened to the chocolates? Did people eat them?
Yeah, they would have been distributed out to the public. Often they'll partner with homeless charities. Yeah. Well, I had to measure the largest. What was it? Jaffa cake, and it was like 1.5 meters wide Jaffa cake. It was enormous, and it was made by Frances. I forget her name. She was the winner of Bake Off a few years ago, And Frances Quinn, that was it, yeah, and she made this giant biscuit or cake. That was the point: is it a cake or a biscuit? It's for the Philosopher's Arms, the Radio 4 philosophy show. And in the end, I took home a quarter chunk of this thing, and I was so sick of it. I did give it to the office. I took it back to the office, but everyone was so sick of it. Delicious chocolate, and it was really expensive to make. Thousands of pounds worth of chocolate in there, but it was delicious. But it does all get eaten. So yes, the chocolates were given out to the public.
Tony is desperate to know what's the biggest selling love song in the UK. I don't suppose you know by any chance.
Well, the biggest selling single, depending on how you look at it, because it's very hard to single sales in the US used to include sheet music sales, which is why it used to be White Christmas. But the biggest selling is Candle in the Wind, which I suppose isn't it really? It's a love song of sorts. Yes. But because of the original release and then the release after Diana died, that became the biggest selling. Was that a love song? I mean, it's a love-ish song, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the final thing that I would like to ask you, Craig, though I'm sure we've got loads, we might have to find a way to get you back for another set of records. It's about what makes a record breaker, because you've met all these people from all around the world, including Sanderson Jones. For people who don't know, was one of the founders of Sunday Assembly, who broke a record and then sadly lost his record. But I'm sure he'd be very proud that he'd handed the baton on. What sort of person do you meet? What makes a record breaker?
I mean, it's very hard to pin down the one thing, because the great thing is that they're all unique. Everyone has a slightly different take on it, which is the thing that makes them all the same, is that they're all different. But there's a definite gene that some of them have of just determination, like absolutely determined. And some people are doing records once a week. There's a guy in Italy called Silvio Saba, and he holds, it's an unofficial record, the most Guinness World Records held. And he probably at the minute has about 350 different things. He just took the record recently last year from Ashrita Furman in New York. And actually, Ashrita was the one who built the giant bouquet of flowers, the 100,000 red rose bouquet. He made that as a thank you gift to Sri Chinmoy, who's his spiritual guide and spiritual advisor when he was alive. He's now dead, sadly. But then Ashrita expresses his joy of life, and his fact that I'm alive and healthy. He does all these incredible things for records. So he's pogo sticked up Mount Fuji, and he's the fastest time to pogo stick up the stairs of the CN Tower. He built this giant bouquet. He's done he built the largest popcorn sculpture. He did a giant sculpture of King Kong made of popcorn. So he just does all these weird things to challenge himself, and often to put himself through pain. Like he ran a whole marathon with a milk bottle on his head. So you get a full milk bottle, and you balance the punt in your breast at the top of your head, and you run the whole marathon, and you're not allowed to touch the bottle in the whole marathon. He's done marathon hula hooping. I mean, he's just an incredible guy, and he's obsessed with it, really. Because he sees it as an expression of being alive. There's no right or wrong. It always makes me laugh when I think of. I got interviewed by a journalist who said, "What's the point of records? Why don't people go to the Olympics for that sort of stuff? Why are you doing all this stupid stuff?" I said, "Well, it's not us doing it. We're just reflecting back what people do, and they come to us and say, 'This is the thing I do.'" Like fidget spinning and all that stuff. I mean, who would have thought that would be a thing? But it is. And our job, and why we're still here, I think, and successful, is that we're just reflecting the world back at us. And we're the only people who monitor all these things. Like, what's the triple jump, the hop, skip, and a jump? Why is that in the Olympics? Why is synchronized swimming in the Olympics?
There used to be all sorts of weird stuff in the ancient Olympics.
It's just all so arbitrary, and they're introducing new things. So snobs look down on what we do sometimes. They're like, why would you go space hopping? Why would you waste your time doing a space hopper marathon, which Ashrita's also done? I was like, well, that's really quite challenging. If you imagine having to do 26 miles on a space hopper, That's more difficult than doing a hop, skip, and a jump in the Olympics. But we've arbitrarily given credit to one and not to the other. So what we say at Guinness World Records is it's all the same. It's all good. It's all interesting. It's if you're doing it to set yourself goals and become a better person and achieve something, it doesn't matter to anyone else in the world. Just do it and enjoy doing it. And I think what it does is that elevates. It's that rising tide that lifts all the ships. So the more that we break records and push ourselves as a race, the better we become at things and the more we learn about ourselves. Like, why climb Everest? There's no reason to climb Everest. There's nothing up there. There's no shops. The view might be nice if it's not snowing or cloudy or misty. People do it because it's a challenge and it's a fun way of expressing your being alive, celebrating being alive. And humans are the only animal that does this nonsense. The only thing that we do that makes us different to any other animal is that we record ourselves. We do things that we don't need to do. We've got shelter sorted.
Yes.
It's like Bridie's poem. You've got the shelter. You've got food. You've got some kind of way to reproduce you're fine.
We might as well challenge ourselves. Thank you so much, Craig. You've been amazing. Remind me of the name of the gentleman who's pogo sticked up the sea. Is he called Ashrif?
Ashrita Farman. So I'll stick him in the chat. So he's actually called Keith, but he was given the name Ashrita, which means protected by God.
Ashrita, okay, wonderful.
He's an amazing guy, actually. I mean, if you ever wanted him to chat, I'm sure he would.
We need to grab hold of him. Craig Glenday, everybody. Go well.
Thank you very much,
everyone.
I hope that was
time. And I'm hoping that it's going to. Sorry, I just came off. I hope that's inspired you to go for a record. I'm going to share a poem that's come in very quickly with you. Roses are red, violets are blue. Most poems rhyme, but this one doesn't. That's from Bill. Brilliant stuff. So I hope that has inspired you to. First of all, do a world record, but also I liked what Craig was talking about, this idea of challenging ourselves, feeling alive. And not that I'm saying you should necessarily go for tattoos or perhaps, kiss someone, hold on to someone for hours and hours unless you want to. But there is something about finding little ways to challenge ourselves and making ourselves feel alive, which is very much what Sunday Assembly is all about, which I'm glad Sanderson Jones went for his hug, although I had a horrible image of toiletries at that time, and I don't mean, deodorant. I was very worried about this. So hopefully that has inspired you. And one thing that I've definitely taken away from it is I hate the programme Undateables. I won't watch it. I think it's silly, with no disrespect to anyone who's ever been on it, but I don't think anyone is undateable. And I get the idea that, the whole idea of the programme is people do end up dating, so therefore they're not undateable, are they? So there you go. So it shows that love is all around. That love might be to bond you to someone who has tattoos. That love might be the respect you have for someone. The love might be finding someone who finally gets you, but someone is definitely not undateable, in my opinion. So I'm hoping that little bit of love that we shared today can make you feel cool. It's not always about the red heart. Sometimes it's about loving yourself. So I hope today, with love from Sunday Assembly Manchester, that you'll feel a little bit more loved and be kind to yourself. You're in the middle of a pandemic and you're doing so brilliantly. Respect to you. I'm just going to leave with one more poem before we do our final moment of reflection, which is this. Roses, by the way, Bill's was the non-rhyming one. This one is from Judith, I think. Roses are red, violets are blue. Spring is coming, so let's shout Yahoo! I'm going to say goodbye to YouTube so we can stop the recording.